It's Wednesday, February 26, 2020. I just finished watching the president give this emergency declaration to the nation. And I have to tell you, I was a little bit taken back. The president almost seemed like he was fumbling words. He seemed like he was not wanting to be there. He almost seemed very angry as when he stepped back and allowed his medical response team to speak. He was in the background. He seemed very, very angry. He said that we are ready and able, ready, willing, and able. We are ready for it. Now, the futures market was actually a little bit up before the president spoke. As he was speaking, the futures market dropped what I saw negative 260 points at one point, rebounded a little bit. It's about 100 points down now, but it was up before the president spoke. So maybe the markets aren't quite buying what the president, the vice president, and some of the people on the medical response team that he has, it's not buying it. And when the president says ready, willing, and able, we're ready for it. You know, I just spoke to somebody the other day. His wife had to go to the emergency room at a local hospital here, one of the best hospitals in the entire country. She was there for over 8 hours before they could treat her just for the flu. What in the world do you think is going to happen if this infection gets out of control in America, if you're waiting 8, 9, or 10 hours just to get treated for the simple flu? How much money is this going to cost the healthcare system here in America? You're in ICU for a week or two. That's going to be $500,000. Just imagine the potential for catastrophe here, yet we are ready, willing, and able. Futures, as I said, are down about 100 right now. Another thing that I didn't like here is the president kept comparing this to the flu, that the flu is worse. We've been hearing this for weeks. It's always, don't worry, it's nothing more than the flu. The flu's worse. Another problem I have here is why isn't this president restricting travel? Who are we checking right now? Right now, the president told us that we only have 15 people here in the U.S. that have this infection and that most of these people are doing well. But how do we know how many people are infected unless we are checking people? What we do know is that 300,000 students went back to China for the new year and have flown back to the U.S. to go back to college. Have any of these people been checked? Another thing, think about how easily this can grow here in America. Look at our infrastructure falling apart. Look at our cities like San Francisco, Los Angeles. This is a breeding ground for a plague. This starts popping up in America. The amount of homeless people, you go down to Los Angeles, you look at Skid Row, 55 blocks of homeless people. You look at San Francisco, 25,000 homeless people. LA, 80,000 plus homeless people. This thing will get absolutely out of control. Let's talk a little bit right now with what happened today in the markets. I'm going to leave it right there with this president. Again, he did not give me any confidence that things are going to be okay. In fact, it's quite the opposite. I'm losing confidence in this government and what they're going to be able to do. If it's going to take you 8, 9, or 10 hours to be seen by a doctor at a hospital for the flu, what's going to happen if this thing gets out of control and tens or hundreds of people are at hospitals, if not 1,000 people at a hospital for treatment? It is going to bankrupt the entire healthcare system. Right now, we're going to be dumping $2.5 billion into a cure for this. They want more money, so we're going to be bailing out farmers now. We're going to be spending billions on a cure for this infection, and it's getting absolutely out of control. Repo market today, they had to inject $40 billion of liquidity into these markets. Dow was up 461 points at one point. It closed down in the negative 123 points. 10-year yield at an all-time low today at 1.30. The Dow Jones has lost 7% this week. This is happening so fast. I've got to tell you, I was watching the Dow Jones this morning. It was going up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. It was absolutely bananas. I have never seen so much volatility in the market than what I saw today. It was probably historical how many times this market was moving up and down. But again, up 461 points, closes down 123 points. Absolute insanity. CBS Los Angeles. This came out. This was on the news this morning. Korean Air flight attendant working at LAX diagnosed with the infection. How many people have been checked that were on this flight attendant's flights? How many pilots have been checked? How many people that she came in contact have been checked? San Francisco declares state of emergency over this infection. This also came out today. This was on CNN. Do your due diligence. This is on the AP. President to detail infection efforts. Schumer seeks $8.5 billion. What I was happy to see, at least that the president was not siding just with the markets. He was actually reassuring Americans that America is going to do whatever it can do and spend whatever it has to spend to protect American citizens. Now, you can believe that or you cannot believe that, but I was happy to see that he wasn't just solely worried about the stock market, but looking at his face, he was so angry that I believe that he's so mad that everything he's been running on has been about low unemployment and record highs on Wall Street. And this is going to affect him. It's going to affect his 2020 campaign. If these markets get wrecked, what else is this president going to stand on? Because his sole claim right now is the stock market highs, and they're coming down, and they're coming down fast. Yesterday, the president was furious with the CDC for the press conference, and that press conference did rattle the markets. The CDC obviously is going to be more credible with these type of situations than the president. Again, he seemed very upset at this declaration this evening. He was very upset with the CDC yesterday because the markets are crumbling based on the news. Again, we need to know, does this president care more about Wall Street and the stock market, or does he care more about the safety of the American citizen? We're going to find out. CNBC today, Workday cancels internal sales conference attended by thousands over infection fears. Workday is a company, it's a cloud-based software vendor that specializes in human capital and financial management applications. Now, it was supposed to draw around 3,000 participants in Orlando, Florida. It's been canceled. Think about what this is going to cost Orlando, Florida, what it's going to cost resorts, what it's going to cost restaurants, local business, what it's going to cost the airlines. This is a big deal. And this came, I was reading this right about the end of the day, end of the trading day. And the market was trying to come back, the plunge protection team doing everything it could, but all you had to do is go to CNBC, read this article, and it did not help the markets at the end of the day. They could not recover. And now, being the third day, we've lost 2,000 points in 3 days, being the third day down, it was shocking to see these markets up 461 points and then get crushed. Something is going on. And it's going to be very interesting to see what happens tomorrow. A very good article today on Zero Hedge, the stock market bloodbath and the Fed's diversionary jibber jabber. I'm going to kind of paraphrase through this article for you. It made some very, very good points. The Fed spent the last 10 years fine-tuning a system that faithfully transfers trillions of dollars to the fat cat friends on Wall Street while the real economy sputters at an anemic 2%, and the middle class gets wiped out. Now think about, if this infection continues to get worse, how bad GDP is going to be here in America. Manufacturing is already in recession. Service sector falling off of a cliff. Class 8 trucks, inventory of Class 8 trucks now at the highest in history. Things are slowing down. This could get really, really ugly. The Fed is not going to throw in the towel now, especially when its crooked pals are getting clobbered daily. A virus they never saw coming. The Fed has Plan B. That will involve a direct market intervention to purchase a set amount of individual shares per month that will be added to its bulging balance sheet. If we continue to have problems, the Fed will be making some type of announcement very soon. I think that if we have another bad day tomorrow, another bad day on Friday, the Fed will be coming out next week making an announcement. They're going to have to cut rates drastically. No one knows how bad this infection truly is, or how bad it could get, or how bad it will damage the world economy. But it is starting to damage this economy and the world economy pretty bad. This has the potential to cause a full-blown crash, the likes we haven't seen since 1929. The virus cannot be countered by central bank policies. It can't be rolled over with paper. It can't be rolled over by money injections. It can't be rolled over by low interest rates. Slashing rates and injecting liquidity will not prevent or stop the economic carnage or bloodbath that could be coming. This is why every one of you needs to be preparing. A shock today that we didn't really see a big bump in metals, but right now they are up. The Fed will just keep cutting rates, pumping more money in the repo market, and buy even more stocks directly, hoping to put a floor under prices. This is all they can do. Question is, will it work? I believe it may work in the short term. The market might get a little buzz off of it. It may be a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound, but in the long run, the medicine continues to wear off. The Band-Aid is going to fall off the gunshot wound, and they are running out of ammo. Look, I believe the next rate cut is going to be at least a half point minimal. That leaves us with 1 point left to cut. We know the Fed's balance sheet is starting to get out of control. They have very little in regards to cutting rates. They are running out of ammo, and this is going to put America in a very, very bad spot. It's going to put the Federal Reserve in a very, very bad spot, and somebody is going to feel the pain here. Unfortunately, the 1% will be out of these markets, flying on their private jets to their islands, to their remote destinations, to their ranches in North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, with tons of cash, tons of gold, tons of silver, and tons of real estate, land, cattle. These people have been preparing for years, while the common American has been just living in their little bubbles, living life as a party, running up their credit cards, posting pictures on social media, living lives in denial, and not a care in the world. Unfortunately, reality is coming to America, and unfortunately, the 1% will be long gone. They will be out of these markets, while 99% of this country here in America are going to pay the price for the 1%. And, unfortunately, most of us are going to have to take some sort of responsibility, because we didn't pay attention. We didn't care. We didn't want to be bothered by any of this. And so when everybody's crying because they don't have any food, because they don't have any money, because they don't have a job, because their pension's been wiped out, because their 401k's been wiped out, their future has been wiped out. Why weren't these people caring about this years ago? They're only going to care when the food runs out and the money runs out. Then they're going to care. Wall Street Journal today. Okay, this is how bad it's getting. RV living grows as latest consequence of housing crisis. This is where we're at today. Home prices and rent are absolutely out of control. It's forcing people to live in vehicles, whether that's an RV or a car or a van. People are now being forced to live in vehicles. Los Angeles, 16.5 thousand people called a vehicle their home. Many of those are cars. And those are the lucky ones because we literally have 80 to 100,000 homeless people in LA. Many of them aren't lucky enough to sleep in a car or an RV. Many of them are sleeping on sidewalks, in tents, in cardboard boxes. Last year, San Francisco, that figure was 1,800, up 45% from 2017. Santa Clara County, California, the number tripled over that same time frame to 1,747. People all over the country are living in their cars. They're living in RVs. An estimated 500,000 people are homeless in America. I think that's a very conservative number. I think it's much higher than that. Look around your own environments. You're going to see homeless encampments popping up. I see them. I see them here in Southern California. RV parks where people aren't vacationing. They're living in RVs year round now. They're popping up everywhere. People sleeping in cars. I see cars parked in parking lots now with sleeping bags, blankets, coolers. I know that these people are sleeping in their cars and they're walking somewhere or taking a bus somewhere to work, coming back, sleeping in their cars at night. We've seen that. I see homeless all over the streets of California. And the homeless population, at least here in California, is skyrocketing. We have hundreds of decades-old RVs, and campers out here in the desert, parked like in areas like Slab City, about 45 minutes from where I'm making this video right now. You can go out there today, you will see literally hundreds of RVs, vans, and old dilapidated campers parked out there. Right now, I would estimate there's at least 2,000 plus people at Slab City, outside of the Salton Sea, basically homeless, living in the middle of the desert. Local governments are now using parking lots to house people, putting porta potties out there, and putting security out there for people to park their cars, their RVs, their vans, where they can sleep safely and go to work the next day. This is what it's coming to here in America, the booming economy with the lowest unemployment in 50 years and the strongest economy in history. What also bothered me this evening about the president, and I don't mean to pick on the president, okay? I know what the options are, okay? But when the president came out tonight and said the consumer is strong, this is the strongest the American consumer has ever been, and I read articles like this on the Wall Street Journal, I see the homeless everywhere. I see the homeless encampments everywhere here in Southern California. He's wrong. He's wrong. And again, I don't mean to attack or pick on the president, but he is going to have to get real with the American people here sooner or later. We have an economic bubble unlike we have ever seen in the history of the world. We now have an infection growing unlike we have ever seen in our history. And we can keep covering things up and we can cover up infections, we can cover up the economy, but sooner or later, reality is coming to the world. It is coming to America. It is coming to you and I. Question is, are you prepared to deal with reality? I'm making a food order this evening. I made a precious metals order yesterday. You know, there's people out there that continue to tell me you can't eat silver, you can't eat gold. I understand that, but let me tell you, throughout history, if you have gold or silver, even in the worst of times, Great Depression, worst of times, dollar collapses, people with gold and silver were able to purchase food and water. Now, I don't want to be dependent on using gold and silver to buy food and water, and you shouldn't either. So that's why you should be storing food right now. You should be preparing with more water, more food, so that you don't have to go and buy somebody else's food and water with your valuable gold and silver. Look, if I have enough food and water, I will sell it to somebody for an ounce of gold or silver, okay? Again, throughout history, gold and silver has buying power, even buys food and water. So for those people out there that say you can't eat it, you're kind of wrong about that, because gold and silver, even in the worst of times, has massive buying power. But I don't want you to be dependent on it to buy food and water. You should already have your own food and water preparation now. But remember, When the dust settles, we get back to a monetary system. Do you really believe you're going to be able to sell a can of beans to buy a house? Are you going to sell your bottled water to buy an acre of property? No. That's why you want gold and silver, because it's going to have immense value. That's when you can sell an ounce of gold or an ounce of silver and have massive purchasing power to go buy some land, to go buy a house, to go buy another asset. So, we got to look ahead that, yes, water, food, huge. Number one, though, is security, because if you cannot protect your water, you cannot protect your food, or you cannot protect your precious metals, somebody is just going to take them. So security, number one. Water, food, medical preparations, pharmaceuticals, these emergency products. Then make sure financially you're set up, because you want to be ready when the dust settles and we get back to a monetary system, that you have massive buying power. So I'm going to leave it right there today. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. It's way beyond my pay grade. I don't have a crystal ball. But I don't think that the markets bought what the president was selling tonight. We'll see how much money they have to pump into the markets tomorrow. We'll see how much propaganda, how much fake data they have to put into these markets tomorrow to try and convince the American people, to convince the markets that everything's okay. Again, there is so much uncertainty, massive uncertainty out there right now. Futures down around 100 right now. We'll see what happens overnight. It'll be very interesting to see what the Asian markets are going to do this evening. It's anybody's guess. It's a very, very dangerous time to be alive, a very exciting time. All I can say is make sure you are preparing. Get your food preparations in order. Make sure you have water, and make sure you have security, and make sure that you take advantage of the precious metal sale that is taking place right now. Things may start getting very bumpy. So buckle up, ladies and gentlemen. 2020 is here, and I think it's going to get a lot more wild. God bless.